Voids.
All right. So we can get right into it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Printer.Financial's first cross-chain chat. My name is The Cletusaurus. I'll be co-hosting today with our very own Wally. The format of this chat today will be a podcast-type conversation. We'd like this to be a fun place for projects to come together to discuss ideas, challenges, plans, meet new friends, etc. Also, if the audience has any questions at any point during our conversation, please post them in the AMA questions tab. Today joining us are 4 other projects: Symmetric, Defi Tower, Solar, and The Rebellion. So without further ado, I guess we can, each representative can introduce themselves and their projects, maybe taking about a minute each, and then we can hop into the chat here. So, Brent, would you like to go first?
Why not? So my name's Brent. I'm a business manager for a medium-sized refrigeration firm in the UK. I've also founded a crypto project called The Rebellion with 2 of my good friends, Crypto Mayhem and Equinox. We effectively plan to be a venture capital firm within the DeFi space, whilst also making new and revolutionary products for other projects to use and take advantage of for a very small fee. And then we share all the revenue we've made from venture capital and the products back to our holders in the actual tokens that we invest in, not in our native token, causing it to be massively inflationary. So we're kind of amazing like that.
Sounds very amazing.
Yeah. Yeah,
All right.
like to share?
Who'd like to go next? Voids?
Sure. Thank you for having me, everyone. I'm representing Solar Protocol. Our founder is having his birthday this weekend. I'm one of the marketing managers, and I have a strong affiliation with DeFi and growing networks in the scene. Kintu himself, he has a strong backing of web development and app development, starting from Web 2, having some degrees in social engineering. Built up Solar Protocol as a business model base with a large team to offer development services, already onboarding our first major client before launch. And then we have a bit of a node protocol, passive income protocol brand to onboard the initial development of users and community for that basis.
Very cool. Fizz, you go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Fizz, and I am from a Harmony project called Defi Tower. We are a art-heavy, immersive game that we are pretty much known for our art. We have a really talented artist named Dot Clock. We are an international team full of folks mostly in their late 30s, early 40s. We are in the middle of our launch right now and are really having a blast over on Harmony.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah,
There's a lot of cool stuff going on in Harmony right now. A lot of crazy events.
I have Twitter.
Yeah.
Lately.
Yeah, well, we will have to talk about that in a little bit. All right, last but not least, W Dude.
Hey everyone, W Dude from Symmetric Finance, and we've been around about a year and a half. Well, I guess it's not quite a year and a half yet. We are a DEX AMM and DeFi project on CELO and Gnosis chains, and I am our head of ecosystem and partnerships, and so I do most of our outward-facing sort of business work, especially with our, of course, 2 ecosystems and multiple partners. We are initially we're a fork of Balancer V1 when we launched, and right now we're building on top of Balancer V2. And so we're using Balancer V2 contracts and then building some things on top of them. Notably, we've started with yield farms and then baskets of assets that I guess the best way to describe it and stay above board would be index-like sort of products. And so We look forward to continuing to develop on top of what we think is the best building blocks for DeFi in the space. And next, we're looking forward to continuing to sort of build, grow, and expand liquidity bootstrapping pools for launches, things like that. So I'm happy to be here today, and thanks for having us.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, very happy to have everybody here today. So I guess the first question that I want to pose to you guys is why did you choose the chain that you were on? And do you have any reservations behind choosing that chain, or are you very, very happy with that chain? And I guess before anyone goes into answering, I want it to be more of like, conversation type. Brent says something, Fizz then counters back. Just a very, very cool
And don't be
black
afraid
type deal.
to all interact with each other here. We don't want this to be kind of
Yeah.
project by project. So feel free to have this be an open-ended question.
Well, I can probably say something controversial that will get the ball rolling with why we
Love to
picked
hear
up.
it.
Beautiful.
So we went with Polygon. In my opinion, Polygon is basically going to go into the top three in the coming years. It will be Bitcoin, Ethereum, Polygon. It's got all the benefits of Ethereum, plus a bunch more benefits of a layer 2, and all the Ethereum add-ons that are coming from their V2 will only benefit Polygon, making it a better option than all the other chains.
Well, that'll get it rolling for sure, won't it? Yeah. We've done a lot of research into Polygon and are really excited. And I think I would share a lot of your optimism towards Polygon. And I think there's something to be said that, when you look around the space and you're like, oh gosh, do we need another cheap Ethereum, right? And Polygon, I think, does a lot more than that, and sort of has found this way to sort of create this synergy between the two of them, and even, of course, dependence, the way that Polygon is structured. We launched initially on Gnosis chain, and we've been really happy. At the time, it was XDAI. And it was, we made a really conscious decision to launch there because it was, low barriers to entry for us, and wanting to design Symmetric around sort of DAO concepts. XDAI was known at the time, and still is, for the activity within the DAO space, and so that was important to us. And sort of our whole idea, even after I come in and say, oh gosh, low cost Ethereum, there's too many. That was certainly something that we took into account. But I think as we grow, and right now infrastructure is cheaper, developers are cheaper, things like that are cheaper. We're of course looking at bigger chains like Mainnet and Polygon, because that's where the volume is. At the end of the day.
Yeah. What are you guys thinking, Voids and Fizz?
I like Polygon a lot in the way that they've represented themselves, especially through the bear market. You see a lot of people still going out to be building DeFi protocols. And of course, there's a lot of developer tools. It offers an ability for market capture at this time, because it's definitely one of the bigger chains getting DeFi volume at this time. Solar Protocol personally chose Fantom because of the team itself. They started a lot of them on the Atlas node protocol, if you're familiar with that. And that, of course, was a downfall of a malicious team. But it left a huge void, no pun intended, on Fantom to have another passive income protocol that kind of filled the space. And the tech on Fantom is great, and there's a lot of scalability there. And then developing a business model on top of that, integrating a type of passive income system, hasn't really been shown in many other environments before. And we really specifically wanted to have a partnership with Beethoven. And I'm sure, Geekin, the benefits of balancer forks and how you can have that type of operability between different liquidities and tokens. And that just helped us kind of scale, not only in partnership, but what we can actually do with different yield loops and strategies, and effectively use the treasury that we have that will have revenue share going back to our holders.
Yeah, we have a ton of respect for Beethoven, and they have a lot of talent on their dev team, and just really a great protocol.
I'd love to hear Fizz's take on this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I could turn almost everything that I'm about to say into a joke, but I'll try to be as serious as possible. You know, we were attracted kind of by the cult of personality by Steve and C over at Harmony. We liked, you know, the wacky millionaire that walked around shoeless, and obviously we thought there was going to be grant money for most of us to help build. So those were some of the things. The the grant money, the personality. We really liked the community. So I think that our devs were Harmony community members first, and that's what attracted them. Kingdoms at the time, there wasn't a whole lot going on over there as far as GameFi. So that was all of those were attractive to us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would say there's an element of cultism as well that you have to account for. Because initially, if anybody knows about Cardano, not in a horrible cult-like way, but they've got this real cult-like mentality, and there's so much community built there. We did think about building there at the beginning, but if I'm honest, the coding language on Cardano just is not friendly at all. But yeah.
So
But then,
to kind of parry off of that, voids for solar. You guys are doing kind of like a Web 2, Web 3 consulting firm almost, right?
Well,
You guys do like DevOps?
yeah, we offer development services through a strong team with a good background that we can help build web contracts, smart apps, website on the front end with interactability to Web3, and then actually creating constructive revenue streams that will support us long term. And
Sure.
then having a good launch on Fantom helps us expand omni-chain in the future. But we just wanted a place that we had good operability and the ability to expand outward from there.
So my question to you would be, does your smart contract development services, does that also cover non-EVM chains like Cardano? And how do you guys feel about Cardano?
It's EVM mostly at this time. I know our developers are learning Rust to be able to expand into those sectors, but there hasn't really been much interest to develop in certain types of ecosystems like Cardano. I think the development ability there is a lot lower, and the floor of skill level needed for specifically learning that chain is a lot higher. I know our developers wanted to focus on being able to make diamond contracts standards, so we have more modularity, so we don't have to go migration after migration. Changes are easy. Because we're offering development services, we wanted to create more of a white label solution type model that if we're developing and working on something, that's something we could potentially offer to a client in the future as well.
For sure. For sure.
Just
Now,
if you want to go ahead,
no,
Cletus.
you can go ahead, Wally.
I was just gonna say, I'm curious because nobody had brought it up yet in terms of how you view chains and different chains and their viability in the future. Do you all of you guys, and I mean again, open-ended question, anybody can answer here. How much do you look at major partnerships of like with Fortune 500 companies? Like so, for instance, Polygon is really crushing that right now, obviously. Are those things that you guys look at for your own protocols to maybe venture towards those directions in the future? Do you see those as indicators maybe in the space as, hey, really, really good things are going on there? I mean, I think obviously they are, but even deeper than, you know, just the meta announcement and other things for Polygon. I mean, I just found out that Polygon has partnered with the NFL before with Ticketmaster and things like that, and just kind of things that not a lot of people are very aware of, right? So, really, really large entities are involving themselves with certain chains, and I'm just curious on what your guys' thoughts are on that.
I think it's
Great
almost
question.
always important to kind of look at how mainstream adoption is going to affect the long term of things. And seeing the chains and the foundations that are already having that kind of shoe in is just going to help in the future. So if you're not thinking initially of having that ability to expand it, it's really important to see the strong foundation of what other chains are setting out there. And having these onboarding mechanisms through these already larger, more Web2 branded companies and affiliates, I think that's, you got to focus on that as at least the foundational level of teams.
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said the business aspect of Polygon and all that sort of stuff, with the fact Disney, they're working with governments, aren't they, to start making digitalized NFT passports and security documents. So sometimes it's a case of going where the money is, if that makes sense. And I suppose Polygon has got an unfair advantage in that regard because the two biggest coins in the world are Ethereum and Bitcoin, and Polygon just piggybacks off of Ethereum's success so far, hasn't it?
Yeah, I'd love to be an ideological purist, running permissionless DeFi protocol, but I'd be lying as well if I didn't say that it made some sort of impression. I think the other thing that I try to look at is what's the vision, right? Again, I don't want to repeat myself and say, there's just too many L1s, but I you know what's the vision, what's the differentiation, and yeah, who's supporting it? It's certainly part of that three, or there's probably a fourth leg to that stool as well, I'm sure.
And I think other chains, there's always going to be a specific niche, and especially looking through the bear market, which chain and the focus of people and demographic going over. Like in Solana, you see a lot of NFT-fi backed by traditional finance standards. On Fantom and Polygon, you're seeing a lot more DeFi come up. AVAX, you're seeing people try to expand into their own subnets and create effective scalability through that. So I think it's always important to look at that side of things, especially during these types of market standards of how people are interacting with the chain, and then kind of how that's allowing them to scale into the future.
I think even before the bridge hack and the recent woes from Harmony recently, I think that we were showing a lack of an identity. Even back at ETH Denver, there was a conversation last night about how the Harmony presentation at ETH Denver was all about apes and Blue Metaverse and Deadmau5. And really, this just kind of mid 40s, like spinning out of control for an identity crisis. What is that? What is that called? A midlife crisis. It's almost like a midlife crisis for a blockchain, where all of a sudden this tech and this great foundation kind of got eclipsed by Lambos and NFTs. And I think that, like I said, even before really the hack and some of the exploits that have plagued Harmony, I think that we were really showing that we didn't have a very big grasp on what our identity truly was.
Now, kind of to that point, do you guys see that each chain kind of has their own identity per se, or that different investors or the different projects on one chain might feel different on Fantom than it does on Harmony, or it does on Polygon, or so on? What's your guys' take on that? And I know that Fizz kind of talked a little bit about it, but I think that's a good question for everybody.
Yeah, I suppose they've all got their personalities, haven't they? Much of that is down to branding, I suppose. And then which type of clientele decides they want to use it. In regard to how they feel to use, I'm pretty agnostic, to be fair. Like, if you can use one EVM chain, you can use another, can't you? More or less. But
More or
yes,
less.
like when you look at Harmony and the like, they again have got this really strong community basis, which I'd probably say Polygon doesn't have. I don't think Polygon's community is quite as for failure to think of another word again, they don't have that cult-like feel to them. They're I feel like it's viewed more as a utility than having this personality and feel type of user on board that chain.
And I think retail levels have a huge amount of effect outward in, or really where the chain started. Fantom didn't have that as large VC backing, so you saw a lot of DeFi developers come in and build from the ground up, and it's created a larger sense of community in how a lot of these protocols operate and communicate with each other. But even if you look at even Kronos Chain had some success this last year, and that was a lot from where they offered card services and brought mass adoption through that end of things, which you also bring in different levels of skill and user and familiarity in the blockchain. And I think that has a lot to do with how that kind of develops the culture of focus of what people want to work on in a chain, how people are trying to grow and build their protocol. But I would definitely say there's a fairly specific culture to each chain at this point.
Awesome. Yeah, I think those are great answers for sure. And really just to keep piggybacking off of this chain conversation, it's interesting to me because I know Symmetric is already on 2 chains, but where do you see the future of DeFi? Do you see the future of DeFi as all the chains need to interact for everything to survive here? Can certain chains just last on their own without having to really delve too much into protocols going cross-chain? Is there a chain where you think you can just survive being there, or do you guys see cross-chain as some sort of important future for DeFi or Web3? And what are your takes on it? And Symmetric, I might just angle this question towards you to start, and then anyone else can bounce off of it. But W dude, since you guys are on 2 chains already, I'm very curious to hear what your take is on that.
Sure. Well, I think I think that there's room for differentiation between between chains and coexistence, but I do think probably, cross-chain and multi-chain is the future, and the interoperability is going to be key. But I do think that it's a good thing to do something to do it well, and like on CELO is really trying to push a refi angle and sort of green Web3 tech, and frankly we're here for it. We dig it, and Gnosis is really trying to build into what would eventually be sort of a canary chain for ETH and be very interoperable, if not very little air between the two of them. And so I think that either of those visions could work, but I think whatever CELO does, whatever Gnosis does, whatever any of these other sort of layer ones do, I think they're all going to be pushing at the same time for interoperability. So I think both of those things can happen at the same time, and I think that that's what I would expect. I don't think that there's going to be one chain to rule them all either, right? I think a lot of people tend to view this. I think there is room. And there is space for tech to sort of, really concentrate on one area. So, I think that's the way that we see it. But all that said, I think we're constantly looking for ways, just to so Gnosis and CELO chain can interact, right? Bridges haven't worked pretty well. I love what Printer's doing, right? I think Printer has found a way to work cross-chain, and really do it well and do it at low cost and sort of, be user focused in that way. And so, I think we'll see a lot of that. And I think as the tech continues to grow, interoperability will increase at the same time. So I think it's a both and.
I think omnichain is definitely the future. And looking at where people are trying to innovate, you see different messaging layer blockchains. And I've had some personal affiliation with helping some advisement for some of these blockchains that are popping up. And Tangle is a synthetics layer blockchain that's trying to build the bridge between everyone and have a single front end layer and a lot of different tech solutions for having that operability from chain to chain. And especially on a DeFi standpoint, as we move forward, people are going to want to be able to capture different yield looping mechanisms from chain to chain. And when we're going through the issues of securities and the issues of people buying and selling and having multiple taxes on various tokens, I think the more compound strategies you can build into one back end and accessible through one front end, it's not only going to make it easier for mainstream adoption, it's going to make it a lot easier for people to have that kind of, gross ability to operate on all sectors.
Awesome. Brent or Fizz, either of you guys have a comment on that?
Well, obviously, your ability to go cross chain is only backed up by your confidence in your bridge. So that's obviously going to be a big way that Harmony's got to figure out how to move forward. We can't use our Horizon bridge, and I'm not sure how long it'll be before the trustless bridge is even open. So having a way to bridge around is one thing, but having that option and having people confident in it is different.
Yeah, I'd probably say, like, first and foremost, deaf to all other chains.
Yeah.
But no, I guess it depends on your application as well, because for us, we're kind of doing a 1 foot in, 1 foot out scenario within a rebellion, because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for us to do the Rebel token on many different chains just because of the way we have staking set up for receiving your kind of additional yield from the investments. However, all the products we build, like our Rebel tax system or liquidity management system, stuff like that, like they go cross-chain but feed those funds back into Polygon. That's not to say that one day we might go, let's move the Rebel token across chain. But like I say, I think it kind of depends on the application you're using your token for, if that makes sense.
I have to agree with that, especially with Solar. Our development services we can offer to any EVM chain. So that makes us omni-chain in that sense. And we can certainly build toward the future where the way that you interact with our protocol is multi-chain, but the liquidity is dealt with on one chain. And that just helps us expand our horizons and give more accessibility to larger markets. But wherever we feel the tech is best to build on, we can focus on that initially.
Yeah, I'd have to agree.
That's a great point. That brings up two more questions, honestly, that I have that I'd like to pose. I'll start with a security-based one. So I guess to pivot back to Fizz, you were talking about the Horizon Bridge. I guess, where do you see the state of liquidity security in DeFi right now? Where does it need to be, and how soon does it need to get there? And how do you guys think it'll get there, I guess, in your terms? And where do you just see security in DeFi generally? I guess we'll start with Fizz here, because I'm curious to what you have to say about that.
You might be muted, Fizz. Let's see. You're on mute.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're all good, man.
All good, man.
I probably can't discuss deeply into DeFi's as much as you guys probably can. For us, our simple project, what we're hoping for now is a different scenario than what we were hoping for a month ago. I don't know what success looks like for us. Success to us is being able to launch our project now on another chain and be able to allow our users to be able to go to that chain with the same investment that they currently have. So that's really what the definition of success. It's just for our users, for us to be able to go to another chain and for our users to be able to meet us there with that same token. So that's a entirely new goal than we thought that we would be facing a month ago.
think especially with security and the standards, you have to look at the values of the chain. Are they offering bounty hunts and abilities to bug fix and hackathons and creating incentive to protect the layers that they work on is a huge positive in that sense. And security, if you don't have a secure chain and exploits happen too much and you're losing community and investors' money, you're going to lose your brand value. You're going to lose your community sense. It's not good if there isn't already a strong core focus on these types of issues.
You know, it's I don't want to be that guy that points this out right now, but I'm going to. You know, centralized finance hasn't done such a bang up job of being secure lately either, to be honest. And you know, one can say that it's bad actors there, but isn't it always, right? And so, you know, that's not to that doesn't really, you know, defend anything that's happened within the DeFi space as far as lack of security, especially with bridges, as we mentioned. But you know, if I look at the space, especially quite recently, and ask myself what's held up better, DeFi or some of these centralized finance, you know, protocols or companies, you know, I'd be hard pressed to be too overly critical of DeFi. I think a lot of, especially these the core DeFi building blocks have held up pretty darn good lately, and you know, have done exactly what they've done. They they can't loan out more money than they should. They can't, you know. And of course, hacks happen. These things happen. But you know, I just think, gosh, you know, it has been, you know, an issue throughout the industry, centralized and decentralized. But you know, I think, you know, DeFi has held up pretty well lately, in a lot of ways. And sorry to say that, you know, with we had CELO go down for 28 hours the other day, and it was the first network stoppage that CELO ever had. But everything recovered, and it was okay. And I know that's not always true. And sorry to bring that up for those that have been, you know, victims of some of the DeFi, especially bridge exploits. But you know, I do think DeFi has held up well.
You're seeing a lot of decentralized lending protocols do a lot better than the centralized services that are acting in malicious ways, and we don't exactly know how they're collateralized completely, where their backing is, what risky assets they have. At least on the decentralized side, you're going to have a lot more transparency and ability as a user to find if you're in a safer protocol versus kind of tossing your keys and your crypto entirely to a different entity.
Yeah, and I suppose with the whole security thing, not to like kind of lead the conversation in another way, but it might kind of to sidestep and talk about it in a different way is, for me, I think security for DeFi will become better and better. And I'm about to say something really unpopular, probably with the majority of people in the call. It will become better when regulations come in, if they're done properly.
I tend to agree with you actually on that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I disagree. I just wish I had more trust in the people doing the regulating. But I do think I don't disagree with you.
I mean,
Yeah,
as much as we want to fight against regulation, it's going to play its part in how we are able to move to mainstream adoption. Because if the average user that's trying to learn the space doesn't feel safe, then they're not going to be able to integrate themselves as much. So it's really then the scary part is, do we have the right people in place creating those regulations? Do they understand the systems? And how can we, in the positions that we are, build ourselves up to be a voice to kind of guide that into the correct manners?
yeah, it's kind of much on the same thing, isn't it? Of I'm probably going to get the lettering wrong, but the CBDCs, like there's a lot of hate towards those as well. And I've always said, if you're thinking of it from a different point of view, even like looking at the market cap of crypto, when that day comes when governments go all in on crypto and they all have their own stable coins to replace the dollar, the pound, the euro, whatever, that's going to drive mass adoption into crypto so rapidly and so quickly, which, again, it all bases on how well they actually regulate the space, could be huge for projects like ourselves who are building the building blocks early in the space.
The only thing with regulation that I see is the SEC trying to overstep their boundaries and take more power than what, we would want them to have. Because if they were to, I guess just in terms of the United States, if they were to step in and overregulate spaces, we wouldn't have stuff like this going on. Like it'd be a lot more difficult for small projects to pop up and to be quote unquote legal. So there is definitely a fine line between regulation and mass adoption that it's going to be coming up here soon. It's going to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, definitely. And it's going to be hard to regulate as well because crypto is truly borderless.
Well, I think that
Um,
this is you raise an interesting point with that sentence, and I guess that was another question I had for a little bit down the line, but this is right on time, I guess. I was reading about a couple weeks ago about Binance working with there's a few East Asian countries, there's a few African countries. Binance is working with to help write the crypto regulation. So I guess in the very neoliberal global economic market we live in, do you think that like just market capture is the route to go for these chains and to try to get in early and help governments write the crypto regulation?
I think it's almost a necessity, right? If we're trying to protect the values that we've been building, and there's always going to be an element of greed and misunderstanding that people try to impose the type of regulations upon, or feeling that they're going to start losing market share and ability to capture effectively into the future. And that's kind of what scares me the most, is not having that ability from the ground up to voice those concerns, because I mean, we're the ones on the ground floor building, taking all the risk, and they want to benefit off of the risks that we've taken without taking any of the risks themselves.
yeah, and you kind of do need the big boys in the space to actually help regulate anyway, don't you? Because we've all watched that Mark Zuckerberg goes to Congress video where they're like, "What is Facebook?" And they have no idea what they're talking about. So we don't want to solely rely on very elderly, I'm not going to slander them by calling them names, but very elderly men and women to kind of talk about a new age technology, do we?
Yeah, good points. Very good points. Fizz or W dude, any input on the market capture or anything you've heard or would like to see from the chains you guys are on in terms of trying to get in on the regulation?
Yeah, I think it's important. And I think, yeah, some of the bigger folks in the space, including the bigger chains, especially, and bigger DeFi protocols and things like that, I think are certainly going to need to be involved, and we're going to lean on them because, market share, just money talks in a lot of ways, and money gets listened to. But yeah, I do think that's true. And I financial markets as a whole have issues with regulation, I think, and I think it's notable that and this isn't even either of the chains that I'm on, but other projects that I've been involved with. Like, where do you send your invoice to? Is it England? Is it New York City or London or Paris or you know or no, it's Grand Cayman Island, right? And so I think a lot of evolution would need to happen in finance as a whole to truly sort of make this work. And it's not to be fatalistic, although it certainly sounds like it, I guess, as I hear myself say it. But I think a lot of work needs to be done. So yeah.
I think the leaders of our chain are probably unpopular enough, and there's probably no reason to get up and start screaming for regulation.
I do think, CELO, for example, CELO's, USP, what they're trying to build initially was mobile friendly, and I think that, they've concentrated some on stable coins, and now with refi, I think, there's going to be a lot of overlap, as far as regulation goes, and they're going to have to, and I think that they're particularly ready to, and so. I do hope for that to some extent. At least make nice. At least make good relationships. Because again, the last thing I want to be doing 10 years from now is dealing with Wells Fargo. So.
Right. Absolutely. And that segues perfectly into what I'd like to ask next, which is and nobody knows what it looks like, right? But we can all speculate, and it's fun to speculate. What each of you individuals, what do you guys think the future of mass adoption looks like? Are we carrying our crypto wallets on our phones and just tap to pay type of thing? Like where do you guys, and how do the different markets interact with each other? Where do you see the mass adoption going, and what does it look like?
I think it really depends on where you're looking. On a payment basis, we're going to want to use what we're already familiar with on a larger point. So having the ability to have everything wired through a single app or phone access, or more directly connected to everyday payment solutions, I think the chain's looking at that. That's going to have a huge impact. But then you also see larger entertainment brands like Marvel and Warner and Disney. They're already kind of putting their licenses in the hands of companies like Vivi and Ecomi, that they're doing a lot of NFT digital onboarding. And I think that's like the most mainstream NFT that I've seen, because the way that you interact with it is very, very Web2. You use fiat. It's not really backed or on like a decentralized marketplace. It's when they're within their own sectors. I think there's going to be a lot of centralized approaches initially, and then it's up to people on like the ground floor of our area to kind of build a decentralized aspect. So I think there's got to be kind of two paths to offer to the people that want to have the more decentralized approach and want to have the more typically corporate centralized approach for safe mass adoption.
One of the things that actually attracted me to Harmony was that I thought that it probably would be successful one day at mass adoption, and that's because I feel like to be successful at mass adoption, then people are going to have to be able to buy a Coke with crypto, meaning you've got to carry it on your phone. It's got to take 2 seconds, and it's got to cost a fraction of a penny. And so when I looked at Harmony, I thought, hey, they've already done the difficult part. They're quick, they're cheap, they're fast, and so I still think at the end of the day, in order to really achieve mass adoption, you're going to have to meet that criteria, and that's, are people going to buy Coke with it?
Yeah, and I'd probably say, because obviously most of us have got either Google Pay, Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, some form of that on our phones already, haven't we? Not many of us really actually pull our cards out of our wallets anymore, because we went from paying with check to paying with the barcode on the side of your card, to then chip and pin, and now NFC. In regards to people who might want a bit more security, because if we could get MetaMask, for example, to have an NFC part where you could just tap your phone and make it as integrated into the current system as we have, that would be great. But there's always going to be people who want the extra security as well. But if Ledger, say, could put NFC into their NFC, into their wallets, and actually make it biometric, whatever they want to do to confirm the transaction, that could be future that I envision personally, where we'll all have our ledgers or our trezors, but they'll have NFC and they'll be tappable, and that will just become the new leather-bound wallet, as it were.
And I guess that's kind of just how we are going to expand with the communication layers of the technology that we're already using, and the most accessible way that that can operate on the back end of the type of crypto solutions that we're using right now. But I think that the people that are already familiar with the scene are going to be very stringent about the type of mentality of not your keys, not your crypto, and knowing exactly who holds your money, how is it operating, and what type of power do you have over your own investment.
Yeah, like I don't want my bank to have power over my crypto. Nothing like that, because all they'll do is they'll get even richer by investing into the crypto markets, wouldn't they? And then they'd brag, going, "Look, we can give you a 1% APR now." And you go,
Yeah.
so yeah, I don't ever want that to happen by any means. But obviously we need to make some sort of integration, because can you imagine having to go, "Oh, what's your wallet address? Okay, let me send it to you for Walmart," for example, because obviously I'm very aware that most of you chaps are over the other side of a pond. Imagine having to go to Walmart and then opening your MetaMask, sending it to the Walmart wallet address, and then waiting for the confirmation. That's never going to happen, is it? Like, we need to speed it up.
Yeah. Absolutely. I totally agree. There's no doubt. And I think it's also interesting it comes full circle to kind of the first conversation we had, which is what is each chain really good at? What is the identity of each chain? If different marketplaces and different goods and services will be on different chains, how do we get to a point where the average person doesn't have to have a diversified crypto portfolio of 20 different tokens in their wallet? You know what I'm saying? Instead, they can just bridge easy. You know what I'm? It's some sort of instant transaction that can.
I can tell you a project that's already working on something like that. And actually integrating, because you can get an API for your bank, can't you, where you can use different apps to access your own bank, rather than using their integral one. There's a project called Parrotly. Effectively, they've got a token called pburb, and they're basically trying to make it as seamless as possible. People could just download the Parrotly wallet one day once they finish building it, buy it in fiat, and it will just appear in pburb. And then when they want to interact with the other chains, they'll basically be able to just buy whatever with pburb without even realize they're connecting to one chain or the other. I think they're quite a cool, innovative kind of technology that's trying to handle that.
For those specific types of innovations onward, I'm going to be looking at the blockchains that don't exist quite yet, but are trying to be that messaging layer between chains. I think synthetics are going to have a large part to play in creating a single front end that can operate with all of these chains. And then again, going into these back end solutions that are already built in strategies to allow people to choose just very simplified numbers that you can look at. This has this yield that it interacts with this chain, or this type of messaging layer interacts with this type of payment solution. But I think like everything's going to be connected a lot more than we think in the way that chains are already diversified at this point.
Now, in terms of this messaging layer, and I don't know the answer to this question, but Polkadot, I heard some things about Polkadot in the last kind of bull run when everything was going up, and their whole main spiel was that they were going to be the layer 0 chain. Do you guys know anything about that? And I haven't been keeping up with it, so I'm just kind of shooting the question out there.
So I remember looking into Polkadot because one of the main things that I got into crypto back in like 2017, I was looking at a company called Engine, and how they're trying to build more of a GameFi solution to different like bound assets per a tokenized digital, kind of like how you have different Steam the Valve marketplace. But how they are specifically trying to scale to have different chains interact is they are using a parachain that interacts with their tokens, so they have this cross operability. I can't say that I know exactly where it's progressed since then in that point, but I know that Polkadot does have that ability to do that. But I think that's still going to create some kind of, you still have to kind of choose back end until they are more accessible. People still have to build the roads and the highways in between each parachain and layer. And then you see AVAX bringing their subnets, and like that's where I keep coming back to synthetics, where I feel like that's going to be where you can mimic a certain asset on one chain and have it communicate through liquidity on a different one. I think that's where we're going to see that type of front end solution to be able to integrate all of these types of different highways and roads and sectors.
Interesting. Does anyone else have a comment on that?
No, I'm sort of ditto on most of what I've heard.
All right.
So Harmony One had a couple questions in the AMA questions that I'd like to pop in here real quick. We got a few more minutes before we reach our time frame here. So Harmony One posed the question. We'll start with the second one first, I think. How can we make DeFi ecosystems less fragmented? It's currently like visiting another country almost when using Solana versus BSC versus Avalanche versus Harmony, etc.
True.
Anybody have a take on that question?
I mean, I'm just going to regurgitate what I know in the sense I've been looking into a very specific protocol that is trying to address these ideas. It's called Entangled, and it is building that type of operability using synthetic layers of communication. And I know Synthetics also is trying to work towards similar mindsets, but through, I think they're building their own blockchain in that sense to be able to do that. So I know there's definitely going to be a competition of who is going to get the market share of building that type of technology. But from what I understand, it's usually a synthetic backed layer. And I think also as we get into larger Forex trading systems, that's going to have a huge play in the game there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. To kind of pivot here in our last few minutes, a few different questions. Thoughts on whether we've seen the lowest of lows from Harmony One?
Well, I'll tell you what. Right now, my wife has COVID. I'm getting groceries delivered. I'm feeling like it's 2021 all over again over here. So green candles when I look at the market. Who knows? I would never want to, say
that type of stuff too much, right?
Yeah, but it's we've certainly seen quite a bit of drop right now. I'm feeling good about what we're seeing the last few days, but the world economy is still in a tough place. So who could say? What I do know is like I said earlier, it's a great time to build. Infrastructure is cheap. As the world has inflated, the cryptoverse has gotten cheaper, and so it is a great time to build right now. I think it's a great time to accumulate liquidity in the DeFi space, build volume, because what we hope happens would that volume be has a multiplier effect in the future. So have we seen the lowest? If I knew, I wouldn't. I'd be on a beach somewhere. I think,
I don't think we've hit the lowest, honestly.
Oh no!
Based on previous market cycles, we're at the point where we're definitely going to be, especially on macroeconomical levels, potential multi-year bear market. This is the first time that crypto is in a bear market, while economically we're also in a macro bear market. And I think that because crypto didn't exist in the same type of standards, we're looking back in 2008 where we had this type of financial decline on like total system levels. And there's going to be relief pumps. There's going to be a lot of volatility, but the people that want to capture this, I think building, like you're saying, infrastructure layers and getting the technology out there, this is a perfect time for that. But if we're talking on an investment basis, you have to be very close watching different volume metrics of markets and how that's affected on a macro level even if you're looking at altcoins to BTC, BTC is going to be affected by macro economy and all altcoins are going to be affected by BTCs. But I think we're going to see a lot of volatility still into the future.
Yeah, I think I'd have to say that I'm actually going to be cheering the day that Bitcoin drops to 11 or 12 grand, because I was swing trading it when it first happened, so I'm actually kind of looking forward to the crash so that I can get some more.
Yeah, when's that going to occur? I meant to ask you.
I reckon, not financial advice, but I reckon December.
I was about to say the same thing.
Wow.
Honestly, I agree.
Really
we usually see a pump through the fall into like even this past year. That's kind of where we hit the decline as well. And a lot of these types of pointers in market of what people use as metrics, they become almost self-fulfilling prophecies. If enough people use a certain indicator, everybody's going to react to a certain way, and it becomes a kind of exponential wave effect from there.
Yeah,
we've got time for 2 bulls and a bear between now and December.
Yeah, well, I've been to be honest, most of my experience comes from the TradFi markets, as I've been trading for about 14 years now. And even during the recession, during September and October, we saw rallies. It doesn't matter what year you're talking about, stock market go up in those months. So it's purely just, like you said, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, because anybody who's waiting for it, they buy at the beginning of autumn or fall, and then everybody else sees it going up who's less experienced, and they start buying in, and then those guys who got in at the beginning go, see you nerds, and sell off.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
I was not expecting those answers from everybody. I thought it was all going to be flowers and rainbows. That 17K was the bottom, and that we're going up from there. And
it's great though.
I'm blown away.
Real. People are. This is awesome.
Yeah,
man.
people are real. No, I like it. I like it.
This is great.
So to I don't want to get exact numbers here, and of course not financial advice. But if you were to say what you think the bottom would be for Bitcoin, what do you think it would be?
Well, I've already said mine. I think it's 11 or 12 for me, what I'm looking at. But you guys are free to disagree and be wrong.
I'd say 11 to 14K is that's a good range of trying to hit a target there. You're never going to be able to capture the exact bottom unless you're the people that have the type of indicators and ability to control markets at that level. They're always going to be the first ones to kind of get on the boat there. But from a speculative sense, I think that's a good range for the bottom.
Should we all put $100 in, and we'll try to
right.
Have a little cross-chain chat number one pool.
I've got folks around me calling for 3,900, so I can't tell what's real and who's just trying to be cute at this point.
Yeah.
I feel like what I've heard already is pretty good. I think we could see flash crashes into the 4 digits. But I'm thinking, low teens is probably where I'm thinking.
If we go 4 digits, I'm remortgaging my house. I'm saying that now.
You and I both.
Selling everything, going all in.
You never, I'm always doing something else though. It's the worst part about working on a crypto protocol, right? Is that you can't pay as close of attention to the markets as you used to when it was so much fun 5 years ago and so I'm always like, oh man, ETH hit 900 today, and I missed it because I was busy. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we should just set up a signaling service that texts everybody and goes, "Oi, all of you guys who are busy, buy now."
That's it. Now we've got an idea.
Now, I'm going to trademark that really quickly. Okay.
Hurry up. I'm already on the website. I'm gonna start. It's now a race. Okay, so we're just about out of time here. I did want to have one closing question for everybody. Now we talked about this a little bit in the pre Cross-Chain Chat private group here,
Oh
and
no.
and you know it's coming, Brent. You know it's coming.
I
Favorite
believe
pizza toppings. And is barbecue chicken is that like a controversial topping?
No.
I want to hear everything here. Favorite pizza toppings, starting with Brent.
well, you already know my opinion on this. Being an Italian traditionalist, there should be no more than 4 or 5 toppings on a pizza, and the toppings include the sauce and the cheese also. So if you want to have a 4-cheese pizza, you have a 4-cheese pizza with tomato sauce. If you're a monster like Cletus, you have about 20 different toppings on your pizza, and you nearly throw me into having a heart attack.
I do like my Supremes.
Oh yeah, I like my pizza like you just took it up to a buffet at the Sizzler and just started putting
There
stuff
you
on
go,
top of
Fizz. Yes, yes.
You Americans are destroying my culture.
I see. I'm the pineapple guy. Like,
Oh,
roast me for it, I guess. Here we go. I'm first controversial opinion from Wally of the day here. Pineapple on pizza is a good thing in my world.
I think there's a lot of negative bias to that. People are just loud about it, but there are so many people that always are on the other end of the conversation, right? I love pineapple, ham, and jalapeno. Like that's a good core. And
So
I don't have the privilege. I have to be gluten free due to food sensitivities. So I'm always going to back that with a nice cauliflower crust.
He likes it sweet and spicy with the jalapeno. And I'm from Chicago, so we don't eat pizza. We eat lasagna that we call pizza.
that you call pizza,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, right.
Yes.
right. Where's the? How do you ban people again?
I will. Yeah, I'm from the Midwest as well, and I'm not a fan of the Chicago style. I cannot say that's my type of pizza.
No, honestly, I like any of the fancy pizza joints, like the wood-fired sort of thin crust stuff with vegetables on it. And that's what I actually go for.
Yeah, like a traditional
good.
Italian pizza is. It's supposed to be light. It's not supposed to be heavier pizza. Which is why you Americans are just culturally appropriating all of our cultures and grinding them into a pulp.
That's kind of what we do.
I like spice. I want to work for my food. I want it to hurt.
I need to feel it.
That's what pepperoni's for.
Oof.
Not spicy enough. But all right, guys. Well, hey, this was a lot of fun. This can, I guess, wrap up our first cross-chain chat. So I want to say big thanks to all the projects for attending here today. I think we had a great time and lots of interesting perspectives. We're doing another one of these on August 13th. It will be our second cross-chain chat. So to the audience, please join us then. Again, big thanks to everyone who joined us today, and have a nice weekend. So
Thanks, everyone.
what we can do is, yeah. So what we can do is, if you guys want to hang around, we can join the general chat in the community section. So if anyone from the community wants to just say a couple words, we can do that. But otherwise, yeah. So have a good one, everybody.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.
Great
for
time.
having me.
And also, if you guys want to come back and do another one of these, please
Yes.
out. We would
No,
love. This was a great time, and I would love to chat with all 4 of you guys again. So
yeah, it'd be grand.
Likewise. Cheers, everybody.
Love you,
Thanks,
boys.
everyone.
Cheers.